92 FM. Game On's Fantasy Football.
And you're very welcome along to Gameweek 21, the Game On Fantasy Football podcast, and joined of course by Phil McGrath in studio and in London by Paul Caffrey from Fantasy Premier League Transfers.com. Good evening, lads.
Good evening, Andrew. How's it going?
How are we?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Yeah.
Oh, very well. Enjoying the new year. Just don't mention the football, you know.
Okay.
That's kind of negates the whole purpose of this podcast.
Well, that's it from Game Week 21.
Yeah,
and thanks for coming back. Right, let us crack on. And first, I suppose it has been a while since we have had a game week.
Yeah, we did the old FA Cup break.
Yes, which I don't like. I don't like too much. But let us remind ourselves of the scores from Game Week 20. Swansea put it up to Man City, but went down 3-2 at the Liberty Stadium. Two great goals from Boney. Kolarov, Yaya Toure and Fernandinho on the score sheet for City. And Arsenal 2-1 winners over Cardiff City. Walcott and Bentner with the goals at 2-0. Sorry, what did I say?
2-1.
Did I say 2-1? Yeah. Well, good old Cardiff, I gave them a goal. No, 2-0 it was, well interrupted. Crystal Palace 1, Norwich 1 was the score at Selhurst Park. Punchin back on the score sheet again after a long absence. Crystal Palace 1, Norwich 1, and Johnson with the goal for Norwich. Hooper with the assist. A lot of people have Hooper in their squad now. Fulham, a victory. 2-1 victory over West Ham. Two teams in big trouble, but that's 3 points. That's vital for Fulham. Sidwell and Berbatov with the goals for Fulham. West Ham, Diame got the goal for West Ham, but they're in big trouble, it seems. We'll talk a lot more about that in a while. Liverpool 2-0 victors over Hull City. Aguerd and Suarez with the goals. Coutinho got an assist. And Southampton went down 3-0 to Chelsea. They battled well. That score sheet, I suppose, it was slightly tough on Southampton because they really played well. But when the goals came, they just came. And good substitutes for Chelsea that day. Oscar and Willian both on the score sheet. Torres got the other one. And Oscar got 2 assists. So what a substitution that was. Stoke City won. Everton, they played really well. They deserved their point, but God, they must have felt lucky to get that last-minute equaliser. Baines got the goal to cancel out Asaidi's opener for Stoke. And Sunderland, again, they're just not in the luck in the league. They went down to Aston Villa by 1-0. Agbon Lahore with the game's winner. West Brom 1, Newcastle 0. A good result for managerless West Brom. Barrinho with the goal for West Brom. And Newcastle's first defeat in a while. Manchester United, of course, 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2. A lot of attention on that game. Eriksson got 1. Welbeck equalised, and Adebayor got another one. So, or did he equalise? I can't remember now. Anyway.
Yeah. Adebayor got the first, and Welbeck equalised. Well, we came back from behind. So we went 2-0 down, and then he pinged it in for 2-1.
Yes, he got his goal very quickly after they went 2-0 up. Almost in the same minute. That was what confused me. But anyway, it was a traumatic game week for David Moyes and for a lot of fantasy football managers, I presume. And we should get on with game week 21 because that's what we're all here to talk about. Right, so Phil, I know you're looking around at game week 21. I know you're
mooching about the place.
Mooching about. I seen you outside Goodison Park, hanging around like a bad smell.
I was. That's exactly where I was.
Will we go back there now?
We shall indeed. Everton and Norwich.
Should get a little teleporter device.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
We'll try and get one.
Imagine how much extra time you get in bed.
I'll try and get one of those for the pod.
Do.
We should be able to figure that out. Right.
Very handy for me.
Yeah,
it would work well for you. Actually,
be perfect. Yeah. Let's see what sort of budget we have. Everton against Norwich.
I mean, looking at it, I mean, it's certainly a tale of differing fortunes, shall we say. Everton go into this one on the back of 3 wins, 1 loss and 2 draws, whereas the Canaries have only managed 1 win in the last 6 with 2 losses and 3 draws. Everton have registered 19 goals in 10 home games, where the Canaries have only managed 7 in 10 away games. But Everton at the back have been far more impressive than Norwich have ever been away from home. Norwich have conceded 22 goals away from home so far this season. Now we know 6 of those did come against City at the Etihad, whereas Everton, of course, they've only conceded 9 goals at Goodison Park so far this season, registering 4 clean sheets. Couple of things to note, I suppose, going into this one. Baines, Jagielka and Distin all have to be assessed ahead of that game, and also Norwich have their own injury worries with Basong, Turner, Johnson and Howson and Houlihan, all doubts for the trip to Merseyside. But I mean, player-wise, I mean, it's got to be Everton, really. Coleman obviously is the main man at the moment for plenty of fantasy managers. I think his ownership rate's up around 44% now, or 45%. But he's 3 goals in his last 5 games and is averaging 5.6 points per game now so far this season, which is a great return, although his price is creeping up to the very expensive
6.7 now.
Yeah, it's up from 5 million start of the season to 6.7. So if you haven't got him at this stage, you'll be feeling like you've missed the boat, but I'd still bring him in.
He's still good value. At 6.7, you have to have him because he's grown into that role that Martinez has given him, and his finishing is excellent. I mean, he found the top corner there a couple of weeks ago coming in. So, I mean, there are, dare I say it, echoes of Gareth Bale when things started to go right for his career a number of years ago at Tottenham. He's doing a very similar thing now at Everton. So, fantasy football, he's nailed on. Ross Barkley.
Be nice to see an Irish player at Real Madrid, wouldn't it, in a couple of years?
Something else.
There's one.
Would it be the first? I can't recall any before that.
I'll come back to you on that one.
There you go. And Ross Barkley is one who would have tempted me, but I'm not too sure if he's going to make the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's still unclear whether he's going to make it. He's got a toe injury, apparently, that they're monitoring closely, according to Martinez this morning. But
how's the baby toe there?
Yeah, stubbed it on the coffee table or something, but you know.
And up front, Lukaku as well, I suppose. He's still owned by a good many fantasy football managers,
including myself.
32.3%. Ownership.
6 goals in 10 home games this season and 2 assists, not a bad return. In fact, most of his returns have been at Goodison. So certainly against a Norwich side that have conceded plenty of goals on the road, he could be one to look at, should I say. In terms of Norwich, again, we mentioned him when looking at the preview of game week 20. Really, the only one for me worth a look is Hooper, 5 goals in 10, but only 1 of those have come on the road. So I wouldn't, he's the only one likely to do something.
What price is Hooper in at though?
Well, see, that's the big thing, really, isn't it? I mean, are you going to splash the cash?
Well, I mean, the only reason you're going to bring a Hooper for 6.1 is that because 6.1 is all you have really to spend.
Yeah, and I think there's better options if you've got just even a slight bit extra. You can do better there, but
All right, second focus game of the week.
Well, having spoken about Gareth Bale, I suppose we'll head to White Hart Lane.
Head to White Hart Lane. It is Spurs against Crystal Palace, and yeah, you can see the clean sheet there, and it's a different Spurs. We don't exactly know what it is, but we know it's different. We know it's organised. We know it's simpler, and we know it's working. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's very much a switch to the 4-4-2 has worked wonders for Tottenham. I think Sherwood's done quite well. I think they've brought in a system that's, I think you're right, it's simple, it's easy to follow, there's no confusion, and everyone knows what they're doing, and they're all playing for the new manager. And there seems to be
a little bit of consistency there. Adebayor is feeling loved. He's feeling like a child that's back at the dinner table.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we look
he's
at
not up in his room.
No, we look
facing
at the
wall.
They've Tottenham they've won 4, lost 1 and drawn 1 in their last 6. They're actually unbeaten since Sherwood's been made permanent in the league, which kind of says it all. They have, however, only managed 11 goals in 10 home games and conceded 13. But I mean, that's still some of the legacy problems from AVB, and I think I'd expect them to do better.
High line, that high line is gone though. So,
and the other thing, it turns out that Soldado, he's actually very good. He links up very well with players, and he's. Not only will he score, he's got an eye for an assist as well. And I suppose, as you rightly point out, Andrew, Adebayor is, I suppose he's on that kind of 5 to 10 game streak where he kind of proves to everyone that he's still got it. And while he's doing that, he's a man to consider for your team. Also good value.
7.7, very good value at 7.7 Adebayor, I have to say. It's probably the cheapest he's been for a few years now.
I'd say so. I think what I thought the most interesting prospect, and in fairness, myself and Phil had a discussion about this, and there's an article in the members area, Fantasy Premier League Transfers.com about it. Ericsson looks a very good prospect. He's at 7.2 million. He's playing good football. He's finally got the opportunity that AVB didn't really afford him with a lack of game time and the system that he was playing. But he's scored. He's getting assists. He's somebody that I suppose I really think is worth purchasing.
25 points in his last 3 games, Paul. He had 13 points against Man United, 3 points against Stoke, and 9 against West Brom at home. He before he moved, he was used to playing sort of pretty much in the hole behind the strikers. He does have a tendency to want to come in off the left, so they're playing him sort of in off the left and allowing him to cut inside if he wants, and it seems to be working for him.
Yeah, I mean, he did very, very well at Ajax, and when he moved to Tottenham, he was certainly one that plenty of fantasy managers would have earmarked as a talent to bring in. But I mean, obviously under AVB, things didn't quite work out the way he probably would have hoped, and certainly AVB, I suppose, to a large extent, would have hoped as well. But
if he bought him.
That's true. It depends who bought him, I suppose. But he 25 goals in 113 appearances, I think it was, for Ajax. So, I mean, he certainly has the capability to get in amongst the goals. And with 2 goals and an assist in his last 4, he's looking like one that certainly could be value for the coming weeks and one to keep an eye on when you're dispatching that wild card.
I suppose if people were looking for a Spurs midfielder, they would have probably looked at Paulinho earlier in the season. He's 6.6, but he is injured now.
Yeah, there's a couple of players there that are just to make you aware of. Vertonghen, Paulinho, Sandro were all out, and Soldado and Sigurdsson are doubts going into this one. Now, I don't think Sigurdsson would feature anyway, but certainly Soldado will be a big miss for Tottenham if he doesn't make it. And of course, with the news that Jermaine Defoe, well, the news that we're not supposed to know yet, that everyone knows that Jermaine Defoe is going to Canada. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because he's due to fly out to Canada on Monday to be presented in Toronto. But the talk is now that he may be loaned back to Tottenham until the MLS season kicks off, so he could be here until possibly the end of February, start of March. But if Soldado is injured and Defoe isn't available now because of all this coming out too early, we could see Tottenham shift away from that 4-4-2 that's worked so well for them over the last couple of games.
I wonder, could they consider pushing Ericsson further up the park?
Well, that's another thing. I mean, they could play a 4-4-1-1 with Ericsson in behind Adebayor, but I think Adebayor is nearly suited as the number 10 playing in the hole because of his aerial ability and the fact that he can hold the ball up. It does very much depend. I think if Soldado's out, we could see a switch away from the straight 4-4-2. But hopefully he'll make it back, because I do think Tottenham are far better when they do play that way.
All right.
And there's nothing at Palace worth looking at, just to put it into perspective. They've conceded 15 goals in 10 away games, and their most informed player at the moment is Jason Punchin, and he has a total of 1 goal and 2 assists all season.
All right. That saves me asking the question about Crystal Palace. The third of our featured games is
up north.
Manchester United and Swansea.
No. Further north.
Well, sorry, we were in London.
We were. Yeah. So, no, I'll give you that.
All right.
I was thinking further north. For a good 3 hours from Manchester.
Newcastle, Manchester City.
Yeah, I think you have to look at this one. Mainly drawn to this because
I have to, because you're telling me to.
Yeah. Well, I'm mainly drawn to this one because of City's impressive win in they keep calling it the Carling one, the Capital One Cup.
You can call it the Carling One Cup.
The League Cup. But Newcastle as well.
When have you ever had one Carling, huh? Go on.
Yeah. Newcastle have been playing well as well, though. City's away form has been questionable throughout the season. However, they are starting to turn that around. But looking at their form going into this, Newcastle have won 3, lost 2, and drawn 1, whereas City are undefeated in their last 6 with 5 wins and a draw.
They looked great last night, didn't they?
They did. They looked very, very impressive. But I mean, I think they've scored like 59 goals.
But West Ham now look
59
crap.
goals in 15
it has
games.
to be said. West Ham looked crap.
Oh yeah, listen,
has to be said.
It was,
and
I
without
would say
any
it was
fight.
I would say it was men against boys, but that'd be unfair on boys. So
it would.
But Newcastle have
was...
scored 17 goals in 10 home games and conceded 10 with 3 clean sheets, whereas City have only registered they've registered 19 goals in 10 away games, but they have conceded 17 with only 1 clean sheet.
That was early in the season. That's not current form.
Well, you say it's not current form, but they still haven't been as impressed. I think it's probably the reason we look at this with such skepticism is the fact that they've been so impressive at home, but yet can't quite translate that when they travel for whatever reason. Like I said, they are starting to turn that around.
One thing to put in, I mean, this is a game which is tough for any team. When we saw, I suppose, a number of years ago, the year City went on to win the league, it actually took late goal from Yaya Toure to turn things around for him to get the victory at St James's Park to go on and win the league that year. And it was a very, very tough game for them then. And I don't expect it to be any different this weekend. With that, I mean, I don't know if I've got Negredo. Obviously, you got that the stunning hat-trick, it has to be said. They were all very, very good.
What a first goal. What that volley over his head, wow.
Yeah, it was a peach. But he hasn't quite done it in the league since I brought him in. He's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, and he came off in 58 minutes on New Year's Day.
He certainly did. I'm debating whether to keep him. I'm not convinced that there's going to be so many points there. I suppose the two players that do grab me from Manchester City, David Silva is one, and then Fernandinho is the other, because both of those players are playing very well, and they really both have the potential to get you a lot of points. So it really depends on how much budget as to which one you go for.
What about Yaya Toure? Say if you have Yaya Toure, are you saying get rid of him and
you're covered?
Yeah.
I would say.
No, but would you say cash in on Yaya now and maybe swap into Silva Fernandinho? I know you're probably not earning too much money.
I'd make a switch, yeah, I would, if I had to. I think he's done very, very well, and I do expect him to continue. Well, I just think those two players are players who I think will get more points over the coming few weeks than him. But that's not to say Yaya won't perform. However, in this game, I wouldn't be rushing out to bring in Manchester City players. And if I had a Newcastle midfielder or someone, or a Remy or whoever, I'd look to play them as well, because City are fallible at the back away from home.
Well, see, I actually think that City will do quite well in this one. I mean, Newcastle are going to be without Colaccini and Debuchy, and Cabaye is a doubt going into this one.
Yeah.
And I think if it transpires that Cabaye doesn't start, and obviously Debuchy and Colaccini are definitely out, I think that could signify a significant swing in favour of City. I think you're right with the switch from Yaya. I think Silva is a lot. Well, he's 8.8 million cheaper. Yeah. But he's also a huge differential. Believe it or not, his ownership rate is ridiculously low. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it is.
Whose? Sorry.
Silva's ownership rate, it's very, very low compared to Yaya's.
It is 5.4.
Yeah, and Yaya's is up around 30s.
Yaya's is 45.
45, there you go. So certainly, it's a differential. I never thought we'd see Silva as a differential, but there you go, he is, and we know what he's capable of. I was like you, Negredo was probably on his way out the door for me. I do have changes I need to make elsewhere, however. I had Theo Walcott. So he may get a stay of execution and hope he can reproduce his League Cup form. Newcastle side of things, I suppose Gouffran is the one to look at. He's scored in all but one of his last 6 home games, so if anyone's likely to nick a goal, it'll be him. But and Remy, he's only got 2 goals in his last 8 games. I would worry about him, but big game, big club. He may just pull it out of the bag. I think Paul's right. I think City are fallible on the road, but certainly if it transpires that Cabaye is out and Debuchy and Colaccini, as we know, are already gone, I think City are on for a good win.
All right, they were the 3 focus games. Next up, it's best of the rest. Right, let's start best of the rest at the top. The early game, 12:45 start for Hull City versus Chelsea. Paul, I know you want to talk probably with Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reverse of this fixture earlier in the season was a bit of an embarrassment when we saw Steve Bruce really pander to Jose Mourinho. Chelsea just completely outclassed Hull that day. Eden Hazard, I mean, he's got 8 goals, 8 assists. He really is a fulcrum of that Chelsea team. He is a bit more expensive than Hazard. He is a bit, than Oscar, than Ramirez as well. But he's getting more points. And the key thing is he's the number 1 there. When he's fit, when he's available, he will play every week, whereas the other cheaper options are being rotated slightly. So I really think if he was English and it was a Frank Lampard, we'd be saying every team needs to have him. He's gone slightly under the radar because he's not. However, I think you really, really need to have him in your team. I think he's going to get a lot of points this week, but even over the next 4 or 5 games, you can see him doing quite well.
Do you think that Oscar is only beginning to find a good bit of form this season in the last couple of weeks?
No, I think Oscar's had form all the way through the season. He took Matta's place essentially at the start of the season, which was a little bit surprising. But he's been scoring goals all the way through, and now in fairness, stuff went very well for him last time out with his assist. But he's a player who's been doing it, and when he's played a lot of games as well. So if you haven't got the budget for Hazard, I'd go for Oscar. As I do think that the two of those will be, I suppose, the mainstay for the next coming, I suppose, possibly the rest of the season if they stay fit.
Okay. Are there any other? I mean, a lot of people will want Chelsea cover in their squad, and I know because we'll be talking about sort of wildcards a little bit later on, Paul. But defensive wise, I know you guys have, I think, both on occasions brought in John Terry at certain points for. And he's delivered. In all fairness to him, where do you think the clever Chelsea money is at the back? Is that at Cole, Gary Cahill?
Oh, I think, to be honest, the clever money probably still is John Terry because he's decently priced. However, Chelsea aren't getting enough clean sheets presently to maybe merit bringing in the defender. However, this game you could probably tip that you probably will be right. But outside of that, I mean, Azpilicueta has come in, he's played a few games, but he's not playing. He's just not doing enough to get into the team for myself. So I would still be sticking on the John Terry side of things. However, for me, it's really a case of having possibly two Chelsea midfielders. You know, they're not getting anything from up top. So on that side of things, it leaves the midfield, and the defence isn't getting enough clean sheets.
So it's Hazard or Oscar, basically, or both.
Yeah. One or the other, or both, if you can.
All right. Willian looks exciting when he gets on, but again, his game time means that you're probably not going to spend 7.5 on him. Let us move on. Cardiff City and West Ham. I can't see a whole lot going on, although I do still have Marshall in goal as my second keeper, and I think that's a good decision. And I also have Turner as my now one cheap defender, and I'm also happy with that.
I'd play both of them this week. I actually fancy Cardiff for a clean sheet going to West Ham. West Ham have been utterly demoralised in the last couple of days, and they just don't. Big Sam has admitted they just don't have the squad. They don't have the class of player, and they're struggling, and away from home especially. So I think a clean sheet for Cardiff with a new lease of life under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be one to look at.
Ferguson spoke very highly of him in his book, saying that he sat at every training session. He wrote down everything that they were doing within the sessions. He recorded everything, always with the aim to be a manager. Now, obviously, we've heard he's done well in the Norwegian league, so now it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on with Cardiff, and I think he's going to do very well.
All right, let's watch that space. Everton and Norwich we've covered already. Fulham, Sunderland, not with Phils. No. Southampton, West Brom again.
Yeah, no, I think there's certainly there's something to look at in this one. Fulham, Sunderland doesn't really do much for me.
It's an interesting game, Fulham Sunderland. It's a
6-pointer if you ask me, but there's nothing in it worth looking at fantasy wise for the moment. Southampton are a team that certainly intrigue me, and I'll be looking to Adam Lallana this week to do well against the Baggies. He's been putting in some very good performances of late and has now registered 4 goals and 6 assists so far this season. Not to mention 10 bonus points at 7.2 I think he's at. 7.3, sorry.
He wants to get on the plane.
He wants to go to Rio. Yep, that's very much it. He's one to look at, and I also think that Jay Rodriguez is one to look at this week as well. West Brom, should I say, haven't been the best on the road this season at the back, and I'd fancy Southampton to try and get their season back on track, and I'd fancy them to do quite well this week. And I think with Lambert a doubt heading into this one, I think we're going to see Rodriguez play up front, and I think a goal or two we could see from him.
Yeah. Would you go along with that, Paul?
Yeah, very much so. As Lallana in the team, I've stood by him, and I'd be expecting returns from him. And Jay Rodriguez, on his day, does very well. So, I mean, anytime he's jumped into the tips before, he's delivered. So, I expect big things from him this week.
All right. very well organised team. Man United and Swansea we never got to in the focus games. Paul, I suppose, given the fact that you're truly the our man on the inside there, what is happening?
Well, it's a funny thing. I mean, the mood in the terrace is where everyone is sitting there. And there's the people who sing are singing, the people who just sit there are sitting there. But
what do you do, by the way? What side of that particular divide do you sit?
Oh, I'm singing. I'm there for the crack. If I want to watch the game properly, I can watch it on TV and get a better view of what's going on than any seat in the stadium.
Pipe and slippers.
You're going for the atmosphere. That's part of it. So I mean,
you're just like a one-man party all yourself, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's it. I get the crowd going.
Very good.
Although there haven't been too many parties lately.
You should try and bring some prawn sandwiches. Apparently, they go down really well there.
Yeah, they might be better than the pies. I got a pie there last weekend, and it was burnt to bits. I was very disappointed. That put me in bad mood at the start of the second half, and then the end of it, well, the pie got thrown, and I marched out in regret that I hadn't done grocery shopping, which is very unusual for a football match.
I'm very sorry that we didn't do a post-match interview after that, and you could have told us all about the pie. Anyway.
Anyway, on the football
meanwhile, back in the real world.
Yeah. I suppose what's happening is there's a combination of things. It's not the same Manchester United team last season, despite what people are saying, because we have the likes of, I suppose myself and yourself were speaking before, Andrew, but we've got Vidic and Ferdinand who played nearly every game last year. You'd Robin van Persie hungry and backing the goals in. And then obviously Paul Scholes came back, and for those games where the midfield was struggling, he did a job. Those players aren't there this year. Moyes has then come in, and he's not playing the same defence every week. He's changing it. He's changing the midfield as well.
He made Van Persie train with everyone else because last year, a lot of people know this, but Van Persie had his own training regime, which he basically said because he doesn't like to train too much. He doesn't like to overtrain because of his previous tendency to get injured. So what happened? Moyes said, no, doesn't matter about that. Forget about your personal training regime. You're training with the rest of the squad. What happens? He gets injured. Anyway.
Very interesting. The other side of that, I mean, if you compare that to the Shevchenko thing, that destroyed Shevchenko a number of years ago.
Yes.
So, I mean, very mysterious. A lot of talk of him leaving.
Now, one thing about Van Persie, forget about it, will he leave or will he stay? Will he be playing this weekend?
Talk is that he won't be playing. Not expected to.
No, I wouldn't expect to see him back for Gameweek 23.
Yeah,
I'm not expecting to see him back before then. If he does come back next week, I think it'll be a surprise to me anyway, but I don't expect him to return before Gameweek 23. But I mean, fantasy-wise, I mean, I don't really see a whole lot in this game, Paul. Have you anyone there that you think is really going to light the touch paper this week?
Looking at this game, Swansea were very poor last week, despite the fact they actually beat United.
Doesn't say much for United.
It doesn't say much for United. United, effectively, it was bad man management. I mean, Fabio came on, he got sent off. United then had no leaders on the pitch, so some players went to attack, some players went to defend, and it became a shambles. They were just, I suppose, they were overturned, and it was a good headed goal for the winner. But I mean, really, that team was there to be beat. They could have been taken apart very, very well. Despite the fact Swansea got into the lead, it was one breakaway chance that they took well too. So, having said that, lost 3 games on the bounce. They have to respond. Swan, I suppose, you'd be looking at Rooney, you'd be looking at Januzaj. If those 2 players play well, United will win the game and they'll get a lot of fantasy points. There is still the question marks. I mean, there is still the possibility that Rooney may miss the game. I suppose, I mean, there's an interesting point in the league manager, the Premier League manager's book, which was released there earlier in the year. I should say late last year. And in that, basically interviews all the managers in the game. So you've got Brendan Rodgers talking about how he struggled at Reading and how he left his principles behind, and that's what went wrong there. And he basically at Swansea stuck to his guns and did very well, got the job. But within that, all of the managers they interview, they also interview Alex Ferguson. And Ferguson makes a very interesting point in that book. He calls it the Mercurian drip, where he sees a team, no matter how good the players are, that they want to play well for the manager, but once the players have actually lost confidence in the manager, they've lost faith, and they don't see things turning around, that no matter what they do, it's not going to, and it's like a drip effect on your head that will just drive you mad until eventually the manager has to change. So obviously after the Sunderland game, we saw Bobby Charlton and Alex Ferguson was very, very disappointed with the match. It was the first time we've seen in public them actually shown their disappointment, which means to me, Moyes, if he's going to prove himself to be a good manager, there's a lot of people, or I suppose Ferguson himself, who thinks that he was nearly sacked except for a Robin goal. Mark Robin kept him in the FA Cup many years ago. The next 2 or 3 weeks could be the saving grace for Moyes. Now I know a lot of people will say, look, Man United aren't going to sack Moyes. They have to turn around, they have to get a result, and they absolutely have to go and beat Swansea by 2 or 3 goals this week. And if they don't do that, and they don't turn around the deficit they face with Sunderland on the 22nd of January, then I think Moyes could be in serious trouble. Until that point, I would say he's probably fairly safe. And so off the back of that, I have Januzaj. He will stay. He will play. I'll expect points from him. I will also play Rooney once we don't get news, I suppose, on a Friday that he's out of the game. And I'd expect a lot of points this weekend. So.
Yeah. Interesting. I can't see Moyes going anywhere this season, I have to say.
Neither can I. Moyes will be given till this time next year.
Yeah. But it is interesting if they don't finish in the top 4, what will happen and what will happen to wages. Anyway, let us continue on away from Manchester United. Stoke City and Liverpool. We have to talk about Liverpool in a minute, but first let's talk about Stoke. They've stabilised results-wise anyway, but they do look a bit more solid as a team, don't they, Paul, in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, they're hit and miss. They're setting up a little bit more attacking. They've kind of forgot their defensive trademark. When things go well for them, they get points, especially in midfield and attacking. But when they don't, they just, I suppose, they capitulate. They wilt. So it's a toss of a coin as to what Stoke side you expect to come out in any given game.
There's no real Stoke players you're going to bring in. Butland will probably play because Begovic isn't available, but Shawcross is the old reliable, but no one's anyone going to bring in.
They're playing Liverpool. You're not bringing anyone in.
All right, let's start with Liverpool then. Steven
Gerrard is back. I think he's certainly one to look at if you haven't already got Henderson in your side, and certainly Luis Suarez is the main man.
What about well summed up? What about Henderson? Would you go for Henderson over? I mean, there's such a price difference between Gerrard at 8.7 and Henderson at 6.4.
Yeah, but if you look at what Gerrard has done in the 12 games that he played with Suarez since he returned, that sums it up for me. I think he's done very, very well. He's laid the ball on and got plenty of assists, got a couple of goals. I think he's worth the extra few bob.
Henderson, though, has been in great form in recent weeks when Gerrard was out.
There, you see.
But will it continue now?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think because the reason Henderson flourished so well is the fact that he was playing in that central midfield role that he covets so highly from Gerrard. But when Gerrard's there, there's no doubt about it. He is the main engine room. He's the brains of the operation, and Suarez just makes it look pretty. All
right, Paul, would you go along with that, Gerrard, Henderson?
Yeah, I very much would. I mean, if I had Henderson, I'd keep him for a week or two. I'm just going to watch closely how he plays. Because what he has done in Gerrard's absence, he's copied Gerrard. He started linking up with Luis Suarez very, very well and doing a few more runs into the box. Now, if that's something he can keep within his game, even with Gerrard, then maybe they can still deliver together. It remains to be seen.
Can I float a third Liverpool midfielder into the equation now? A man I avoided all season, Coutinho, looks like to be playing himself into a bit of form, Paul.
Coutinho he's an excellent player. There's no question about that. His passing range is fantastic. He is probably, in fantasy terms, a little bit expensive.
He's 8.6, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm looking at it for a reason. Gerrard 8.7, Coutinho 8.6.
Yeah, so I mean, off that, where do you go? You probably take the safe bet going for Gerrard because I suppose takes a bit more free kicks and he'll take penalties.
Coutinho it is, Phil.
Done. Well, let's move on.
All right, let us move on. Aston Villa and Arsenal. First of all, the quick conversation. Aston Villa, Phil?
No.
Right,
I think
Arsenal.
they could do the double in this. I mean, they beat them at the start of the season.
It's a completely different
first day.
Two completely different teams.
First day at school. All right, well, Paul, Aston Villa, do you think we should... Are you bring in an Aston Villa player?
I most certainly am not.
Right, that was that one. Right, let's get on to the Arsenal. So, we have Gibbs out in defence. We have Ramsey still out. We have Walcott out. Diaby's out. And then there's only Giroud and Podolski up front. So, it's all right. Let's start, I suppose, in the midfield.
Well, I mean, look, it's Ozil. His price has dropped from the 10.3 it was at back down to 10, a little bit more accessible. I think he's the one to look at. Cazorla has been kind of starting to show signs that he could do something, but I mean, it's very difficult to back against Ozil, even in the absence of Walcott and Ramsey. I'm very disappointed by Walcott's injury. He was doing well. I did bring him in, and now I'm just going to have to sell him out again. And hopefully, and I say hopefully more so from Arsenal's point of view, I don't own him, but Giroud is... we're still not 100% certain he's going to be back. Hopefully he will be from Arsenal's point of view, and the nearly 20% of fantasy managers who own him, but it could be interesting.
I don't know. I don't see any problem with Podolski up front either. He's a fine player and plays in many roles for Germany.
Game time, though. No. You need to be match sharp, and he won't be that. So that's a problem. But I mean, for me in this game, the only person I'd be looking to have is Ozil.
All right, Ozil at the back. Sanya, 5.5. Is he good value?
Well, for me, he is good value, but for me, I think it's worth spending the extra few quid. Spend the 6.5 million and bring in Mertesacker.
All right, Paul. Same sort of questions to you. How would you deal with the Arsenal midfield? No Ramsey, no Walcott.
Yeah, so Ozil, I have Ozil. I'll keep him there. I mean, this could be a difficult game for Arsenal to actually... They may not get as many goals and points as expected because of those players who are out. Having said that, look...
Could we see a big game from Jack Wilshere at 6.1? Might be a differential for people.
The next, I suppose, the next man that I was looking at, he started to incorporate goals into his game, which is very, very key. For this game, I mean, away from home, 6.1, he's not a bad price. I mean, if you're picking him as a fourth or a fifth midfielder, yeah, throw him in. But I wouldn't be making transfers looking for points here on that side of things. However, I do think if we get news that Giroud is fit, he's one certainly I'd look to throw in the team for the next few weeks. And let's not forget that Arsenal's clean sheet record at the moment is one of the best in the Premier League if you look over the last 10-12 games. So having a Sanya, a 5.5 million, is an absolute steal, or else maybe a Mertesacker because he does pop up with those goals every so often as well.
And I know you're still, Paul, not quite sure about Negredo. If I was to say to you now today, Negredo or Giroud, gun to his head, he says...
I'd go Giroud.
Oh, sorry.
Hey.
Right.
Got a bit of a haircut there.
Yes, don't worry, I'm a good shot. Right, so that is the answer to that. That was best of the rest. Next up, it's Captain's Picks. Right, Captain's Picks. Twice the points. Where are they going to come from? Everton, I'd say. Seamus Coleman. There's a shout for you now. Paul, go for it first.
I had two players in mind. One is Seamus Coleman, and the other is Wayne Rooney. And at the moment, it's on Rooney's arm.
Okay. Phil?
I also have two.
Go on.
One is the ever-present Luis Suarez.
Yes.
And the second is Emmanuel Adebayor.
Yes. Spurs at home to Crystal Palace. Yes.
Are we allowed to name a third, are we?
Yeah. No, please throw as many in as you can.
Hazard would be the third one for me. But I have to try buy him.
Okay. See, I have him. I'd have to buy Adebayor.
Decisions.
Nah, it's too early for the wild card.
Decisions.
Or is it?
Right. I suppose the Man United, the reaction. That's what I suppose Paul is waiting for. The reaction at home to Swansea. And I suppose if the reaction is going to be led, I suppose Rooney's the man to lead it. Any word on Rooney's injury, Paul? What's the feeling in Manchester?
People reckon he's going to play.
Yeah. He's needed. They need it. They need 3 points on the board anyway. They need to
play.
Yeah, they need to get those 3 points on the board because they need to stay in touch with that top group. And just to have a look at the table briefly, Arsenal 45, City 44, Chelsea 43. That's one little group at the top of the group of three, and then it's Everton, Spurs, Man United, and Newcastle. Everton 38, Spurs 37, Man United 34, Newcastle 33. So it's the second little group. United have to stay in touch, and they can't be dropping any more points. So big reaction. Big
put
reaction.
That in context, that's the same amount of points that Arsenal were on at this point last season before they went on to sneak fourth place. So that's the kind of league they're in, and Arsenal went on a stunning run to win fourth place.
I know we're all Man United fans, and I know that's sometimes a perceived weakness of the pod, but I have to say, as a Man United fan, and Paul, I don't know if you'll agree with this, Phil, you'll definitely not agree. This is the most exciting season as a Man United fan that we've had for years. It's the only season where you don't expect everything's difficult, everything's going to mean something more. I think this is what football's all about, and I think Man United fans have to stop expecting the world. They have no right to win anything. You have to win it, you have to dig it out, and you have to win it. They've been winning for years, and they have to fight, and I think this is the first season I haven't been bored in a long time.
I'd probably disagree with you there to an extent. It's I suppose exciting, but I have to say I found it much more exciting wondering if we were going to beat Barcelona in the semi-finals of the Champions League and doing all that stuff than I have now lately watching us lose to Everton. Well, look, that's part of football,
nothing wrong with losing to Everton. Something wrong with losing to other clubs.
No. That game particularly.
All right.
But no, your point is well taken, and it is a case that probably have had it too easy for too long.
I think the fans have anyway. All right, let us move on, and the wildcard is active, as we did mention earlier on. So Phil, going to play your wildcard this early?
No, I'll be holding on to mine.
That's the strategy, to hold it on. Paul, how are you fixed?
It depends how free my Saturday morning is. At the moment I'm looking pretty free, so I'll probably might play it.
He's going to show his hand early. Now, there are advantages to showing your hand early.
Yeah.
There are.
Because you can playing your wildcard early, certainly.
Yeah, because you can get on those points. Why wait 2 weeks to get in those good points? Now, Phil, you've had a lot of injuries in your squad.
I have.
And have those injuries cleared up?
They haven't. I could probably do with playing it, but I want to hold on to it. So I can just about manage with what I have. Because I have a feeling there's going to be one or two additions that I'm going to want to bring in towards the end of the window. So I'm going to try and hold on.
What, like new toys in the pram?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, you reckon there's going to be new toys in the pram?
Every January for the last couple of seasons there has been, or there's been moves.
Any good new toys in the pram?
It's
too early to say. I wouldn't want to name names at the moment, but I certainly think there will be some interesting players that we're going to want to get.
He's going to bring in Ericsson for definite.
Yeah.
You have Hazard, so he'll stay. Adebayor is a possible one. Have you got Lallana still? Have you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. You probably don't need to change the team that much. That's another thing. You don't always need to make too many changes. Maybe 3 or 4, but I don't know. Maybe I need to change to full 11, but that's another story.
But yeah, no, I mean, there are advantages to playing it early. Obviously, you can get a jump on those who haven't played it and try and make up some ground. And also you can beat any impending price hikes that may occur due to the amount of people playing their wildcard so late in the window. But the disadvantage, I suppose, is that you are going to show your hand early, and certainly with the winter wildcard is probably one of the biggest tools you have in your toolbox coming to this point of the season and heading toward the business end. And by showing your opponents your hand early, you're giving them a chance to cancel out those differentials that you have, or certainly minimise the amount of damage you're going to do to their lead, or in the other turn of the coin, if you are leading, give them a chance to catch you. So that's just some of the things. But I mean, listen, each to their own, and certainly budget. And,
said the monkey as he kissed the cow.
Yeah, your budget is going to dictate how well that goes, and certainly if you're like me and you're carrying some injuries.
The way of it is, if you're in a winning position, you hold off. If you're behind, you have to go for it.
Paul's going for it.
Oh.
Paul's gone for it. How many points is he behind now?
Obviously, have you got it there?
Let me see. Hang on a second.
Paul, Phil,
it was 115 a while ago.
So
It wouldn't
Phil
take
is
too much less.
Phil is that, and Paul is that. Oh, there's about 82 points in it, I believe. So the gap is closing, but maybe too slowly.
Oh no fear. I win every year. I'm gonna keep that up.
Yeah, all right.
82 points,
Phil.
Paul. 82 points.
All right.
Isn't it? Jesus, right. I'm off to study my team.
Go play your wild card.
Yeah, it's a man in desperate need of a wild card. Right, that is all we have time for. That was Game Week 21. You can send us your screenshots in the meantime. Phil, what's the best email address for you to get those team squad screenshots?
It's very, very difficult. It's Phil.
Yes.
At fantasypremierleaguetransfers.com. Send them over to me if you can put.
How are they expected to remember that?
I know, my name and the website name
Now,
in one.
It is PHIL.
It is,
by the way.
just a 1L.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can send them over.
It's not a
and if
descriptive name.
No, if you want to put look, he's delighted with that little joke. If you want to put fantasy clinic in the headline, just so I can spot it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get the rubber gloves on. All right, that is it. We'll be back for Game Week 22 next week. It comes thick and fast again. So
See you later, boys.
we shall talk to you later on. Safe home, Paul. Talk to you later on. Go easy.
Bye.
See you, Phil.
Slán.